Facebook ads is about to change forever. And it doesn't matter if you're running a small business or an 8 or 9 figure brand. As we speak, we're heading into a new era. And the good thing is that right now it's a level playing field. Anyone has the capability to win today. Now, I've been able to pick up on these huge shifts because I'm in the Facebook Ads Manager all day working on 7, 8, and even 9 figure brands. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through the 7 key shifts that I'm seeing happen already in Facebook ads that I think are going to be massive in the next year. Okay, the first shift is a big one. This is a shift from super simple strategy to very complex strategy. This is going to sound crazy upfront because just 4 years ago, everything shifted from very complex to very simple. And now it's going right back to very complex again. Let me explain exactly what I mean. In the previous era of Facebook ads, everything was very complicated. People ran dozens of ABO setups, hundreds of campaigns potentially if you were a scaling brand. You duplicated ads every time you wanted to scale. You were very afraid of even increasing the budget just a few bucks. Everything was about staying away from that haunting learning phase and really having a very complex structure. Then around 2020, the algorithm completely shifted and we saw the introduction of Advantage Plus. Facebook pushed Broad and Advantage Plus so hard that you almost felt like a fool for running anything else. And there was a point when this was fair to do. There was a point when this was actually the best strategy, especially at the very beginning. And then just a few months ago, at the beginning of 2025, we saw the shift begin. We saw the Facebook product team announce that Advantage Plus Smart campaigns are disappearing and they're being merged into the manual structure. And when we saw this looking inside of our ad accounts, we actually saw that Advantage Plus campaigns were actually merged for the first time with regular campaigns. And the way that you could identify if you have an Advantage Plus campaign is by seeing this on button right here. If you have this on, this signal that you're running an Advantage Plus campaign, it means that you're using the old school Advantage Plus settings. Those are the settings that you were only able to access by creating an original Advantage Plus campaign. In the new era, we are now seeing this already shift from forced Advantage Plus to now optional Advantage Plus and merging Advantage Plus with manual campaigns. So what this means is that our audiences can either be Advantage Plus audiences, which we have right here, or we can click buttons like further limit the reach of your ads, switching the setup, and then it no longer being an Advantage audience as long as we add an interest group in place. Now, there's a lot of ways to shift this from an Advantage Plus campaign to a non-Advantage Plus campaign, but the core and most important part to recognize here is that Facebook was on a trend to get very, very, very simple, and then they shifted gears at the top of 2025 and opened up more doors for us to get complex again. So let me show you the exact setup that I like to use right now. This is the core that we'd like to roll out at the Moonlighters for the majority of the brands that we work with. So first things first, we are always creating sales campaigns. So we're going to click create sales campaign and continue. Once we're in here, the very first campaign that we're going to create is our prospecting campaign. We're going to call this prospecting, and this is going to be hyper focused on acquiring new customers. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure our budget is set up to a campaign budget, and we're going to set this budget to about 90% of how much we want to spend, really even 95%. So let's say we have $1,000 budget. I'm going to set this to $900. The next piece here is in our audience segment reporting. We have to make sure that our engaged and our existing customers are properly set up. You always want your engaged customers to be anyone who's visited your site in the last 30 to 90 days, and you want your existing customers to be anyone who's ever purchased from you ever. These are very important breakdowns, and they're going to help distinguish if we're spending on new versus existing customers who are already going to buy from us anyway. Moving to the ad set. Each ad set is going to be defined as a pack. A pack is where you launch new creatives. So every single time you have a new round of creatives that you're going to launch, you are launching them in a net new pack. Easiest way to do this is say pack number 1. You could even say pack number 1 underscore and then some descriptor about this round of creative. I don't care if you have 2 creatives, 5 creatives, 30 creatives, they're always a new pack. The next piece is we're generally going to want website and shop, but if you just have a website and you're not selling on Instagram shop, this is especially applicable if you're not in the United States, then just run to website. Our performance goal is always maximize number of conversions, and our data set we always want to make sure is the correct pixel. We are not setting a cost per result goal, and we are using standard attribution, 7-day click, 1-day engage, 1-day view. This is going to give us the most signals into the platform, and then we could always break down our incremental attribution within the platform when we're optimizing. In terms of our budget and schedule, nothing's going to change here. And then for our audience. Now, right now, I like to leave these audiences completely blank. We're going to let these run just like so. The key here is that we're keeping this particular setup very, very simple and very broad. But where things start to get more and more complicated is when we start to add multiple packs. So for example, if I launched a second round of creative, we would now call this pack 2, and we would launch unique creatives within this pack. The thing that gets a little complicated here that most people fail to understand is that now we are going to launch interest groups within this prospecting campaign. And the way that we do that is instead of just launching a new pack, we take winners_interest. And what winners interest is we're taking an interest group and we're only taking our top performing ads and we are graduating them into the interest group. The cool part about this is this all happens under one prospecting campaign. And yes, you are absolutely right. Your new creatives that you launch, your creatives that don't work well are not going to get any spend. You are going to reduce your wasted ad spend in your ad account by a significant margin. You're not forcing spend to any particular ad. And think about it like this. 1 in every 50 ads maybe could have been a winning ad, but 49 out of 50 are going to be properly distributed the amount of spend that they deserve. You are going to save thousands of dollars over the course of your lifetime spending ads if you're not over testing. Facebook only needs a few signals, a few scrolls, a few impressions to actually understand where to spend the money. Where we as human beings and practitioners need 20 or 30 purchases, which could take thousands of dollars and weeks before we can make a proper decision. Now, the key here is that when you're running this interest group, you're going to want to switch this to further limit the reach of my ads. We're going to click switch the setup. Our campaign score is going to drop here. We're completely fine with that. And we're going to click our detailed targeting and we're going to select one single interest. So if I was a shoe brand and I just wanted to target Nike, that's fine. We would get Nike in here, Nike interest, boom, we're good to go. What you need to be very careful of is you're not just targeting the interest that you're already hitting. For example, if I was Nike, what I might be tempted to do is target Adidas, but what I should actually do is target a brand that's dissimilar to Nike. For example, what if I wanted to specifically target people who were very much focused in the beauty and skincare category, but that's not something Nike would ever target. However, we notice that there's an affinity for that group of people and we could actually expand our broad audience by targeting that folk. So what we'll do here is we'll type in something like skincare. Now this cosmetics group is going to be much different than our traditional Nike broad target. So now we have packs testing broad and we have winners in multiple interest groups that are targeting different cohorts. After we set up our prospecting campaign, the next campaign that we're going to set up is again a sales campaign and we're going to set up a retargeting campaign. I'm going to keep this part really simple. Everything else gets set up exactly the same. Campaign budget is on, everything else is exactly the same. The difference here comes in the ad set. The first ad set that you want to set up in retargeting is a 30-day site visitor. Once you're in this stage, you're going to scroll down to audience. You're always clicking further limit the reach of my ads, switch the setup, and you're going to insert your custom audience for 30-day site visitor. You're then going to do the exact same thing for 30-day or even 90-day add to carts. If you're a smaller brand, if you don't drive millions of dollars to your site every single month, then go with 90-day add to cart. It's completely fine. Make sure, of course, you're set up your conversion on website, and then always make sure all these settings are properly set up just like they were in the previous section. Just change your custom audience to further limit the reach of my ads and include your 90-day add to cart list. And then the final campaign that we're going to set up here is our retention campaign. This retention campaign is key. This is how you hit your existing customers. The retention campaign is the best and most simple way that you can manage the frequency, aka how often and how many times you show your ads to your existing customers, because no one likes that brand that sends them messages every single day. That brand that you always see, you can't get away from, that you're just completely sick of, that you're never actually going to buy from. So in the case of retention, we want to also set this up with a very low daily budget, and we're just going to be setting this up in two different ways. We're setting up an ad set. There's purchasers, 180. This is going to be anyone who's purchased from us in the last 180 days. And again, further limit the reach of your ads and make sure you go to custom audiences and grab your 180-day purchase list. And the next and final ad set in here is going to be purchasers all time. The purchasers all time is going to be derived from your Klaviyo or your CRM list, right? This is a list import and it goes well beyond the purchase 180 days. And then finally, after you set up prospecting, retargeting, and retention, Once you start to find winning ads in your ad account, that ad is going to be scaled. So that's why we need to create our scaling campaign. Every single setting is going to be very simple inside of our scale campaign. So we're creating this campaign. We're going to call it scale. Campaign budget. This campaign budget can change very often depending on how many creatives you have in here and depending on how much you physically want to scale. Now, the cool thing about this campaign is it should return at a very high return on ad spend because it's only compiled with your top performing ads that you want to force spend to. The way that we make this happen is we do all the same settings as we've been doing, except we leave our audience on pure broad advantage plus on. In many cases here, your campaign score is 100%. Now, I want to give everyone a big warning here. The way that you actually graduate your ads, all of that, it can get very, very complex. I have video breakdowns where I take care of all of this, and you can click the link that'll be down in the description for specifically how to scale, specifically how to set up. But today we're just talking about the shift, right? That super simple setup that used to just be an advantage plus is no longer palpable these days. It is not going to happen. And the reason that this is better than the ultra simple setup is because now with this setup and with layering on exclusions and clicking on your breakdowns and audience segments, you will then be able to see how much you're spending on new customers, how much you're spending on existing customers, and how much you're spending on engaged customers. All critical as you're trying to scale because you can't overspend in any one of those cohorts. Now, what I'll say right here is if you want this exact structure implemented into your account and not just by completely removing and cutting and starting from scratch, if you want us to transition your account to this proper structure, then go to the moonlighters.com/apply where we can get a certified engineer to actually look inside your account, audit your account. Worst case, you take a 15-minute call, you don't like us. Best case, you work with us for a very long time and become one of the case studies that I've shared on this channel already. The second huge shift that I am seeing in Facebook ads right now is that we are moving from one single winning creative format to a variety of winning creative formats. In the past, there have been brands that completely exploded on one type of creative. And while this still fundamentally does work, there still is an ability to scale creatives and scale individual creatives. We are seeing the highest impact across accounts when we have a variety of creatives. And I think right now the playing field is pretty level. And the reason I say this is because we have so many brands that we operate with and that we see in the market that are still running just a few different formats, right? They're not really running too many kinds of videos. They're not running too many kinds of images, but they're dabbling. They're starting to dabble. They're starting to try with images. They're starting to try with longer images. They're starting to try on reels. And my key takeaway here is that you need to be testing all different formats. There are two key tactical things that actually happen when you're running more formats. A, consumers consume different content on the same platforms. One user typically goes on Instagram and spends 90% of their time scrolling reels. The other user spends 90% of their time scrolling the news feed. And now what this means for you as a brand owner is that if you're only targeting one of those kinds of users, you are severely limiting your maximum reach. So how can you actually approach this? The easiest way to approach it, which is going to be another shift we're going to talk about in just a minute, is to use your organic content and re-leverage it, reiterate on it to actually include organic content in your Facebook ads for all of your formats. Chop and change everything that you can, but also do your best to curate specific content for each part of the platform. The next really big shift that I'm seeing in Facebook ads that the best brands are actually already doing and the smallest brands are actually falling behind, unfortunately, is the shift from chasing new creative concepts to doubling down, even tripling down on creative iterations. And for this example, I want to show you a company called Dr. Squatch. So what I have right here on my screen is every single ad that Dr. Squatch is currently running. Dr. Squatch is an over-the-top soap and basically men's skincare brand. And really, they focus on creative volume. They've launched a ridiculous 484 new ads in the last 14 days. And I don't expect anyone to do this. They probably pay their creative department millions of dollars. But what I think we can learn from this is they have the best ever creative team at making new iterations. So let me give you an example. So roughly 20 days ago, Dr. Squatch announced a partnership with Sydney Sweeney. This partnership was massive. It kind of blew up. It went viral. And what they learned right away was that the ads that they were running specifically for Sydney Sweeney were doing really, really well. So what they did was they took their best performing ads and they created massive amounts of iterations of these ads. And we could see this because we could actually see the timeline of the active ads. For example, this was their first announcement. They launched about 5 to 10 different variations, and these were all happening around 19 days ago. And if we scroll up, we're going to start to notice that they have different versions of the same ad. So this one, for example, just launched 5 days ago. This one right here, which is a ridiculous ad, just launched another 5 days ago. And over, they're making iterations of their top performing ads as quickly as possible. They're not waiting 30 days or 60 days to make their iteration. They're making these iterations very quick on the fly. That is a key distinguisher for them. And we can see this in dozens of their ads. Almost every single ad is some sort of a different iteration of another. And that's a key takeaway that you can make. Don't just change the background of an ad. Change a core element of the ad, and eventually, after so many iterations, the ad doesn't even look like where it started. But that's how you find different pockets of winners within your Facebook ads. We're seeing this shift be so impactful because businesses are going from always chasing the next creative concept that they think is going to take them to the moon to instead working on their current return on ad spend, their best performer right now, and trying to create dozens of new iterations of that one quickly because they already have the base concept. I think that this is very, very key for any business in 2025 and beyond. I think we're going to see this blow up in the fourth quarter. The businesses that are going to have the capability to have a quick creative feedback cycle are going to win massively. The fourth key shift that I'm seeing right now that I think is going to be really big for this year, but really even bigger over the next 2 years, is going to be the shift from ad content to ad and organic content. And let me explain what I mean. So historically, we've always created ads that have unique concepts. They're often very different than our organic posts. The core concept here is that for the first time ever, because of the For You based algorithms on Instagram, on Facebook, on TikTok, everywhere, you're now able to test a variety of organic content and then repurpose that content in your ads. So what you should be doing on a very tactical level, I'll give you the full flywheel. You should be posting as much as possible on your organic handles. Anything on these channels that gets a disproportionate amount of views should get pushed into a folder and be saved as ad concepts. 2 things should then be done to these ad concepts. These winning posts, these winning concepts that actually popped have something that the others don't. So what I would expect for you to do is take that exact piece of creative. Don't change a thing and put it in an ad. And the second thing that I would expect you to do is take that exact piece of creative and make it an ad. Spin something, make something different, add a graphic, add a label, add a price, add a hook, do something different, but try to keep the core of that ad as much as possible because there's something that's going on there that people resonate with. And that's a huge shift that I'm seeing because we're going from a place of always chasing a creative concept to actually being able to hyper test at scale hundreds of creative concepts, thousands of creative concepts, however many we really want, without having to spend $1. The fifth shift that I am seeing, I'm hearing all the whispers about it, and I like to give myself a little bit of credit on this one, is that we are moving from slow scaling to fast scaling. Slow scaling is the concept that Facebook has indoctrinated on us. They have pushed so hard for basically 5 years now, telling us that you have to avoid messing up the learning phase, telling us that you can only scale by 10% every couple of days or 15% every couple of days. I'm here to tell you that that is BS. The truth is, the learning phase is not as completely real as they want us to think it is. And in many cases, the learning phase is just a tool to make sure you don't pause your ads too early. In most cases, you could actually increase your total spend on your ads significantly faster than you've ever thought before. So what you want to do to figure out if you could actually fast scale instead of slow scale is you want to go into your ad account and you want to click breakdowns here and click audience segments. Once you're here, as long as your audience segments are properly set up, which you can do at the advertiser level, you can go down to the very bottom to expand these breakdowns. That's going to show you all of your data aggregated into new, existing, and engaged audiences. And what you generally want to see is, of course, you want to be spending mostly on new audiences, but what you really need to care about is what is my new audience return on ad spend? In this case, over the last 30 days, this brand spent $250,000 at a 1.71. Now, the beauty of this specifically at a 1.71 is that we know as we increase spend, we just need to do so at a 1.71 or better. We're not really concerned with this 3.1 that's for engaged audiences, because engaged audiences, of course, are going to convert better. You need to be looking only at your new audiences. And once you look at that on a daily basis, don't be scared to bring your spend from $1,000 to even $2,000 in just a single day or greater, depending on where you're at. It's all about how well the new audience reacts. And the second thing that you can do to even hedge further to make sure that you don't completely screw yourself when you're spending is by adding additional attribution settings in your platform. And you can do that by going to your columns compare attribution settings, and adding one-day click and incremental attribution. When you see incremental attribution above your goal or one-day click above your goal, then you could really hit the gas because this is a clear sign that you're actually driving net new customers with Facebook ads. The sixth and final big shift that I'm seeing is we are moving away from all broad and we're going back to all broad plus interest. Now, you may have noticed a little bit of a theme here because 6 or 7 years ago, all broad was not even a thing. Almost everything was interest, lookalikes, and a combination of some broad plus interest and lookalikes. What we're seeing work today and what I expect to continue to work really well over the next 1 to 2 years is a combination of broad plus interest targeting. The reason this works so well is because your broad audience is not actually the full target that you're targeting, not the full country, not the full geolocation. Instead, your broad audience, and you'll notice this in your ad account, is actually constricted to a certain amount of reach. That broad audience can only be expanded when your pixel gets informed with new information. So what an interest does, especially if it's an adjacent interest, meaning it's not you targeting something as broad as shoes, that's going to take your broad audience and it's going to bring it from here to here. And the next interest that works well for you to here. And that's why in the very first shift, when I broke down the exact structure that I named out, you're taking your winning creatives and you're testing them in interest because that is actually serving two purposes. Tactically, it's serving the purpose of A, improving the efficiency in your ad account by running interest groups, and B, actually elevating the entire return on ad spend in your ad account because the broads are getting broader and therefore you're reaching more people. Now, the seventh bonus final tip is that I am hearing this more and more. I hear this every day now, but I'm not seeing anyone do anything. I'm seeing this happen so subtly in the background. The biggest brands, they know about it, but they're not talking about it publicly yet. We're seeing whispers about this. We're seeing this really pop off in different countries, especially in places like China. Live shopping is going to come quicker than you could imagine. With the rise of AI and basically how informed the actual consumer is on how much is being hoaxed in many UGC videos, it's never been more key to actually be authentic and show your real product in real time. Live shopping is one of the top ways that people buy in other countries around the world. It was traditionally a really strong way that we used to buy with things like QVC on TV, but now live shopping is starting to come into our feeds more and more. It is just a matter of time until live shopping becomes a dominant placement in Facebook ads. Now, keep your ear and nose to the ground on this one because I promise you we're going to be talking about it as soon as there are more and more updates. Live shopping is going to be huge. So that is just a peek as to what's happening and what's coming, and you need to be prepared accordingly. But what's even more important is what's going on right now. What are the tactical changes you can make today to not only prepare for the future, but actually shift your ad account and put things in the right direction so you prepare yourself for the holiday season and well beyond. So in this video right here, I break down the new way to run Facebook ads. This is my exact strategy and structure, the thing that we started in the very first big shift in a way expansive format so that you could actually understand the concept and the implementation. All that said, I hope you got a ton of value out of this video. And if you have any questions, any thoughts that you think, things that you think are going to be huge in the next 1 or 2 years on Facebook ads, let me know in the comments below. I try to reply to as many comments as possible, and I will see you all in the next one.